Have you ever been driving and you're so focused on what's right in front of you that you kind of forget to look further down the road?
Yeah.
You know, you get so focused on avoiding that pothole or that car in front of you that you miss the bigger picture.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what we're going to be diving into today.
Okay.
We're going to be exploring this idea of looking down the road based on a talk
Okay.
from Elder Alvin F. Meredith III.
Right.
It was called Look Down the Road, appropriately.
Makes sense.
It was given in the October 2021 General Conference.
Okay.
And are you ready to unpack this with me?
Absolutely. I'm excited.
I am too.
This whole concept of looking down the road,
Yeah,
it's so powerful because it applies to so many different areas of our lives.
it does.
Careers, relationships,
Right.
personal growth,
Totally.
even just like day-to-day stuff. You know?
It really is about making choices today that are going to affect us
Exactly.
down the road.
Yes.
So to kind of set the stage here, he starts off with a story about learning to drive with his dad.
Oh, I love driving stories.
Me too.
They're so relatable.
And I love this one. So picture young Alvin, excited to be behind the wheel,
Okay.
cruising down this long, empty road.
Okay.
But here's the catch. His car is swerving all over the place.
Oh, I can just imagine.
Right.
Classic rookie mistake.
It is.
You get a little too excited, you know.
Oh, exactly.
You forget to stay in your lane.
And I think that happens in life, too.
Oh, for sure.
We get caught up in those anxieties or just the everyday problems that we forget to check if we're on the right track, you know?
Right. You're so busy putting out fires
Yes.
that you forget to look where you're actually going.
Exactly. And that's where the dad's wisdom comes in.
Okay.
It tells young Alvin, he says, if you only look at what is right in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
you will never drive straight.
Mm.
Look down the road.
I love that.
So simple, right?
It is so simple, but so profound. It's all about having that long-term vision
Yes.
and letting that guide your present actions.
Yes.
Which is so much easier said than done, of course.
Absolutely. But he then connects this driving analogy
Okay.
to the story of Peter walking on water.
Whoa. Okay, that's
Right.
a big jump.
That's a big jump. I love it.
Yeah.
It's just so creative and just so visual.
Well, and that story really just gets at the power of focus,
Yeah,
right?
It does.
Like as long as Peter's eyes were fixed on Jesus, he could do the impossible.
Yeah.
But then he starts looking around at the wind, at the waves,
Oh, yeah.
and that doubt creeps in,
The doubt.
and he starts to sink.
Yeah. So what are those winds and waves for us today?
That's the question, isn't it?
Right?
What are the things that are distracting us?
I mean, we all have them,
Yeah, we do.
right? Whether it's the constant influx of
Oh,
information,
yeah, information overload.
the pressure to keep up with everyone,
Mhm.
or even just like, I don't know,
Little things, yeah.
those little things that eat away at our time.
Yes.
Yeah.
All those little distractions.
It's a challenge.
It is.
It takes effort.
It takes effort.
It does.
It takes conscious effort.
And that's where Elder Meredith gives us these 3 lessons from the Peter story.
Okay, I like this.
So the first one is focusing on Christ.
Okay.
Or in a broader sense, like, what is your higher purpose?
Right.
What are those core values that are going to guide you
Yes, absolutely.
on the right direction?
Having that compass
Yeah.
to guide you.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And then the second one is being aware of those distractions.
Okay.
You know, he even mentions the great and spacious building.
Oh, from Lehi's dream.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which represents those worldly temptations
Oh, yeah.
that can lead us astray.
Which, I mean, when I hear that, I immediately think of
Yes.
social media.
Social media.
It's like the ultimate
It is.
great and spacious building of our time.
It really is, yeah.
It's so easy to get sucked in
Yes.
and lose track of time and forget what you were even doing.
And then it's not even just those big temptations.
Right. It's the little ones, too.
It's, yeah, like binge watching shows,
Oh, yes.
scrolling through news feeds, or even just getting lost in the rabbit hole
Oh,
of articles.
You start with one thing, and then the next thing you know, it's 3 hours later.
It's like 2 in the morning and you're like, what am I even doing?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is a lot.
It is.
We're constantly bombarded with information and stimulation.
That's so true.
And it takes real effort to stay focused on what actually matters.
It does. And thankfully,
Yes.
Elder Meredith offers us this message of hope.
Okay.
He reminds us that even when we falter, we
Yeah.
can be rescued.
That's so reassuring.
It is, because we have that power to course correct, you know, to learn from our mistakes.
Yes.
And to keep moving forward.
And we have support systems, too.
We do.
Our faith, our values, the people in our lives
Yes.
who can help us get back on track.
Exactly. It's so good.
Yeah, it's that reminder that we're not alone
We're not
on this journey.
we're not alone.
Yeah.
So we have these distractions,
Mm.
but we also have the power to overcome them
Yes.
and to choose our own path.
Choose your own adventure.
Right.
I love that.
But then how do we put these lessons into practice?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
It's one thing to talk about it,
It is.
but how do we actually do it?
Yeah, it's one thing to say, look down the road,
Right.
but then actually doing it,
Yeah.
that's a different story.
Exactly.
So how do we bridge that gap?
Yeah, how do we go from knowing to doing?
Exactly.
That's what we're going to get into.
We
The next part of our deep dive.
are going to talk about that and more.
Right, I'm ready.
Me too.
Yeah.
You know, it's so easy to hear something super inspiring
Mm-hmm.
and think, oh yeah, I should totally do that.
So
But then life happens
Yeah.
and you just fall back into your same old routines.
It's so true.
So how do we actually bridge that gap?
Yeah, it's the classic knowing-doing gap.
Yeah.
You know what you should do, but actually putting it into practice.
Yes.
It's a whole other challenge.
It is. So going back to Elder Meredith's dad,
Okay.
he didn't just tell him to look down the road.
Right.
He actually taught him how.
Yeah, he showed him the ropes.
He did.
And I think there's a really valuable lesson in that, too.
Totally.
It's not just about having the awareness,
Yeah.
but actually developing the skills to make it happen.
So it's like, okay, so knowing where to look,
Yes.
but then also, how does that actually help you steer the car?
Exactly.
It's like having a destination in mind
It is.
when you set out on a road trip.
Like using a GPS.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just kind of wandering
Yeah,
aimlessly
it's going to end up lost.
and probably end up somewhere you didn't want to be.
Exactly. So the first step is,
Yeah.
what does looking down the road actually mean for you?
That's a great question.
Right.
It's got to be personal.
Yeah, it's like, what are those big goals or values
Uh-huh.
that you want to guide your choices with?
Exactly. Figuring out what really matters to you.
Yes.
What are those long-term aspirations that give your life meaning?
And I love how he doesn't limit it
Yeah.
to just one area of life.
Right.
It could be career goals.
Yeah.
It could be strengthening your relationships,
Absolutely.
giving back to your community.
Yes.
Or even just growing as a person.
Exactly. It's all-encompassing.
It is. Okay, so let's say you have that vision.
Okay.
Then how do you actually move towards it?
Right. Because it's so easy to get bogged down
It is.
in the day-to-day.
And lose sight of the bigger picture.
Yes, that's where I think discipline comes in.
Discipline is key.
And prioritization.
Yes, absolutely.
Making conscious choices
Mm-hmm.
that align with your goals.
Even when it's hard.
Even when it's hard.
Even when there are a million other things vying for your attention.
Like that budgeting analogy, but for your time and energy.
Oh, I love that. You have to decide, where are you investing your focus?
Exactly.
So if something isn't helping you move towards your long-term goals,
Mhm.
it might be time to reevaluate.
Reevaluate. Yeah.
You know, like how much time and energy are you giving it?
And it might mean making some tough choices,
Tough choices, yeah.
like cutting back on things you enjoy.
Yeah, like maybe cutting back on social media,
Oh, that's a big one.
being more selective about what you commit to,
Uh-huh.
or even learning to say no.
Yes, the power of no.
Right, but that doesn't mean you can't have fun.
Of course not. It's not about being a robot.
It's about balance.
Balance, exactly.
You can say yes to things that bring you joy,
Yes.
but just make sure those yeses
Yeah.
don't totally derail you.
Exactly. Keep your eye on the prize.
It's like that flexibility within a framework.
I love that.
You have your destination in mind, but you're willing to adjust based on, maybe traffic or road conditions.
Right. Life throws you curveballs. You got to be able to adapt.
And that's where that idea of rescue comes in.
Oh, yeah.
Even when we mess up.
Which we all do.
We do.
It's inevitable.
We have the power to course correct.
Yes.
We can learn,
Mm-hmm.
make adjustments, get back on track.
And remember, we're not alone in that process.
We're not.
We have our values, our faith, the people around us.
It's a good reminder.
Yeah. Is that community support?
So it's like, okay, we've got these distractions,
Mm-hmm.
but we also have the power to overcome them
Yes.
and to ultimately choose our path.
Be the drivers of our own lives.
Exactly. And how do we actually do that?
That's the question, isn't it?
Right.
How do we move from the theoretical
Yes.
to the practical?
To the practical,
All
and
right.
that's what we're going to talk about.
All right, let's do it.
Next. Okay, so we've talked about why looking down the road is so important,
Yeah.
and even like how to start thinking about it,
Right.
but how do we actually like make it happen?
Right. Like rubber meets the road kind of stuff.
Exactly. What can we actually do?
Well, one thing that Elder Meredith talks about
Okay.
is regularly taking time to reflect on your goals and values,
Mm-hmm.
like a scheduled maintenance check
Okay.
for your life.
Like a check engine light for our dreams.
Exactly.
That.
So easy to get caught up in the day-to-day
It is?
and just completely lose sight of what actually matters.
Yeah, for sure.
So setting aside some time, even if it's just for a few minutes each week,
Okay.
to just kind of check in with yourself
Mm-hmm.
and ask yourself some key questions.
Like what kind of questions?
Like, am I still on track with what's important to me?
Okay.
Have my priorities shifted?
Mhm.
Do I need to make any adjustments?
It doesn't have to be anything super formal.
No, not at all.
Right.
Just something to get you thinking.
Okay, so like journaling,
Journaling's great.
meditation,
Mm-hmm.
maybe just a conversation with someone.
Yeah, someone you trust
Yeah,
who can offer you some honest feedback.
I like that.
It's all about actively engaging with your goals
Yes.
instead of just letting them sit there.
Gathering dust.
Yeah, exactly.
And once you have that clarity,
Right.
then you can start making those intentional choices.
Yes, about how you're spending your time and energy.
It's like that budget.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Back to the budget.
There you investing your focus.
Mhm. And if something isn't serving those long-term goals,
Yeah.
maybe it's time to cut back.
Like setting limits on social media,
Uh-huh.
learning to say no.
Yeah.
Often.
To those commitments that drain your energy,
Yes.
being protective of your time.
Like taking control of it.
Exactly. Instead of letting it control you.
And then another thing I think that helps
Okay, what's that?
is breaking down those big goals
Oh, yeah.
into smaller steps.
Absolutely.
It can be so overwhelming to think about, like the whole picture.
Especially when you're first starting out,
Yeah.
it's much easier to focus on one small step at a time.
And then each step, you
Yeah.
get a little win.
Gives you that sense of accomplishment
Yes.
that motivates you to keep going.
Like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Exactly.
But sometimes, even that first step
I know.
can feel so big.
It can.
Yeah.
It definitely can.
And that's where having a support system comes in.
Yes. So important.
It is.
Don't try to do it alone.
Don't go it alone.
Find someone you can share your goals with.
Yes.
Someone who will encourage you,
Who will support you.
hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Maybe even give you a little nudge when you need it.
I love that, like a co-pilot
Yes, a co-pilot for life.
to help you navigate those detours.
And speaking of detours,
Yeah.
it's important to remember that setbacks are inevitable.
Oh, they're going to happen?
We're all human.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes.
We all get off track sometimes.
But the key is to view those challenges
Yeah.
as opportunities to learn and grow.
It's all part of the journey,
Exactly. Embrace the journey.
with all the ups and downs.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
It's about knowing
Mhm.
that you're going to be okay.
That you have the resilience to get through it.
Yes, you've got this.
We do.
And I think that's a great place to wrap up
I agree.
our deep dive on looking down the road.
It's been a great conversation.
It has.
I always love talking about this stuff.
Me too. It's so important.
It is. It's about having that long-term vision,
Yes.
making those conscious choices.
And knowing that even when we mess up,
Yeah,
we can get back up and keep moving forward.
absolutely.
It's been a pleasure, as always.
Likewise.
And to all of our listeners out there,
Yes.
what does looking down the road mean for you?
What are those goals,
Those values
those aspirations,
that you want to keep in focus.
and was one small step
Just one small step
that you can take today?
to make sure you're headed in the right direction.
You got this.
You've got this